Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Football Chemist, where we use data and analytics to go through football's biggest talking points without confusing you with all the technical jargon. On today's episode, we will be doing something slightly different. As there's a new year, that means one thing, and that is the January transfer window, which is always very exciting. Although we don't see many signings of note, the rumours are always swirling, and with many teams looking to bolster their squad as they fight for crucial places in the Premier League, there are big signings to be made all across the table. So in this mini-series, we'll be focusing on some of the players linked with some of the bigger clubs in the Premier League. Rather than looking at the rumour and the likelihood of the transfer happening, we'll try and look at what this player will bring to the club that they join. Now, we'll only be looking at genuine rumours rather than any hearsay or conjecture, otherwise the list will be endless on who is linked with who. On today's episode, we will be looking at Omar Marmoush, who has been setting European football alight with his football recently for Eintracht Frankfurt. The forward has been linked with Manchester City, whether it's in this window or in the summer transfer window, but given City's struggles in the last few months, they desperately need a player to inject some form and confidence into their team as they look to get back to the sharp end of the Premier League. So what will Marmoush bring to Manchester City? Is he the answer to all of Pep Guardiola's problems? Let's find out. So first of all, who is Omar Marmoush? Marmoush plays as a forward for Frankfurt, where he is currently the second highest scorer in the Bundesliga with 13 goals from just 15 matches. He has only one goal behind Harry Kane, and that's with 3 fewer penalties, but he has also got 7 assists, which is the joint most in the whole of the Bundesliga. These kind of performances have helped him propel Frankfurt all the way up to third, and as a team who's not traditionally been fighting with the big guns in the Bundesliga, this is a massive boost. Of course, Frankfurt are very well known in this country, having recently won the Europa League, beating West Ham on their way to lift the trophy. They are not one of Germany's traditional big guns, which makes Marmoush's performances even more impressive that he has managed to drive his team up the table into such a good position this season, competing with the likes of Bayer Leverkusen and Bayern Munich at the sharp end. Whilst his goals would be useful when Haaland is not firing, as he has been recently, they already have one of the best goal scorers in the world, regardless of form, and we expect Haaland's form to pick up again, as it has done for so many times in his career so far. And that is why Marmoush is so key. He is up there with his goals and his assists, and that is why Marmoush is so key. Not only is he up there for both his goals and his assists, his underlying numbers show this strength as well. His progressive play is exemplary, and when you compare him to the other top players in the league, he is consistently ranking in the top 10 for some really key stats here. He's top in the league for goal-creating actions. He's got 5 more than any other player in the Bundesliga, and his progressive carries, key passes and successful take-ons are all very impressive numbers as well. And a club like City really need this to get back to their winning ways, and as we have seen over the last few months, they're really struggling in front of goal to create chances, to score goals and to really support Haaland when he has dropped off in his form. So why do City need Marmoush so badly? Well, quite simply, they're struggling for goals and they're struggling for assists. This season, City have been over-reliant on Erling Haaland. As you can see from this chart, he has got nearly half of the club's goals. So, over the last few months, when Haaland's form has dropped, no one has really been around to pick up the mantle and take City forward and get them those key wins and key goals when Haaland can't. As you can see here, their second highest goal scorer is Guardiola with 4, and he's a defender. And City aren't Arsenal. They need their attackers scoring, not their defenders. And it's not like this is a fluke either. It's not like there are any other attackers up there who are getting into good positions and getting good chances, because when we look at their expected goals for their forwards, the problem is even worse. As you can see here, Haaland has by far and away the highest XG for any City player this season. And that is to be expected because Haaland is probably the best striker in Europe, and so City will be feeding him chances, and he is their number 9, and he's a leading number 9. However, this trend is really worrying that there's no one anywhere near him who can provide a goal threat. No other player has got more than 3 expected goals so far this season, and we are already at the halfway point. Also, if you look at this list, at the top 10 City players for expected goals, here in the dark blue, you can see the 3 defenders up there, and that's not a list that you want to see. For example, look at Savio here. He is behind Guardiola, who is a defender, and although Savio was not brought in to be primarily a goal threat, he is an attacker, so he should still be getting chances, and this is really concerning for City. And although we have said before that Marmoush is not being brought in as a direct goal threat, we can clearly see that he can put in the goals and he gets good numbers. He is the second highest scorer in Bundesliga this season so far, so he does know how to find the back of the net. However, the other problem that City have, and this is the problem that Marmoush will more directly solve, is the fact that they lack a leading assist provider. When we look at this graph here, which shows the leading assist provider for the top 13 teams, as you can see, Savio is leading for City with just 5, but he is well down the list. Compare that to Arsenal and Liverpool, who are 1 and 2 with Salah and Saka. And a club like City, who have title aspirations, who have Champions League aspirations, need to have a player who can be up there providing double-digit assists consistently season upon season. And they used to have this with De Bruyne, but as De Bruyne's form has tailed off and as he has got more injuries, he has had to play a bit of a different role, and someone needs to step up and get the assist for City and provide Haaland the service that he needs in order to bang in those goal numbers that he got last season. So why is this a new problem for City? Why is this only starting to affect them this season, whereas last season it was all fine? The easy answer out of this is to blame Rodri and his ACL injury. And while City undoubtedly need Rodri, I think there are a couple of players who they have really missed this season, one through a transfer and the other through just some poor form. For me, the big problem though is Julian Alvarez. They sold him to Atletico Madrid this summer for 82 million, which was a huge tag, but unfortunately they haven't been able to replace his numbers in the team. Savio has been the only major transfer in attack, and he has struggled to replicate the numbers that Alvarez put forward last season. Alvarez got 11 goals and 8 assists last season, and Savio is nowhere near getting to those numbers, especially with the goals. And Alvarez's contribution went beyond this. He was the second most for key passes for Man City last season, and you could argue it might have been a bit naive to let him go, even for such a hefty price tag. It's not like City are strapped for cash, so they didn't need the money, save for PSR or just to keep the club well funded. Therefore, it might have been wiser to keep hold of Alvarez, who was only 24 at the time when he went, and build towards the future, as players like De Bruyne begin to move into the twilight of their careers. And this could be a big issue, not just with letting go of players like Alvarez, because the other player in attack who they have sold recently, who has gone on to do great things, is of course Cole Palmer. And looking at the numbers that he is putting forward for Chelsea, City are really missing him this season. Was it a bit naive to let him go? Maybe, maybe not. It would have been hard to keep him though, because they could not offer Palmer the minutes that he is currently getting for Chelsea. And the Alvarez problem is exacerbated by two things. One is De Bruyne's fitness issues, but the other is the lack of form for Phil Foden. Foden had a stellar season last year, but has not been able to replicate that form this year, and that might be due to the fatigue caused by participating in Euro 2024. Last year, Foden got 19 goals and 8 assists for City, and no one's got anywhere near those numbers this season or look like reaching those numbers, other than of course Haaland. However, this year so far, it's just the 2 goals and 1 assist, and that is a big drop off, which is very hard to compensate for. And this drop off is evident when you look at his goals per 90 and assists per 90 in 2023-24 season compared to this season. Interestingly though, his key passes numbers are still up, so it does show that he is still getting into good position, especially for the assists. But a mixture of poor finishing from his teammates, as well as him not being as confident as he was last season, has led to his numbers really dropping off this year. But as the saying goes, form is temporary, class is permanent, so hopefully Foden will get back to his best soon, and he's still very young and has got a lot of potential in him. But for City, the last few months have been disastrous. And it's all well and good saying that your player is just out of form, but then you need other people to step up around him. Savio's not been able to do that, and that was expected because he's a new signing who's always going to need more time to get used to the system, and De Bruyne's potential decline in form would add to the problem, and De Bruyne is not the young player that he was once before, so City do need to start to plan for life after De Bruyne, and that's why it looks even more naive to let players like Alvarez and Palmer go so easily, even for the price tags that they got. But have they found the answer now in Marmoush? On paper, it looks pretty clear. Marmoush is an excellent player. He is in the similar mould to Alvarez, so he could finally be City's answer to selling Alvarez, and he can give Haaland the support he needs to get that form back. The numbers he is putting in are on par with Europe's elite, and while City's approach this window is optimistic, and it's not disastrous that they don't get him in January, they still really should push to get it done this month, because they've got so much to play for in the upcoming months. While the title may look out of reach for City now, they're still very much in a fight for top 4 and will need every single point that they can get to make sure that they do stay in the Champions League for next season. And speaking of the Champions League, they're still in a very good position in that tournament itself. and so they will need to fight at the sharp end. They can still win this tournament if they find the form that we know they are capable of getting to. There's been talk about City being back now because they've won 2 games in a row, but with all due respect to my West Ham friends, wins against West Ham don't exactly prove that you're back. And that is why City need to push to sign Marmoush in January. The links are there, the rumours are there, but from what people are saying, it's going to be a tough sell to take someone away in the middle of the season when Frankfurt are in such a strong position to get back into the Champions League and to maybe even have an outside chance of fighting for the Bundesliga title. Therefore, if they are going to sign Marmoush, it would cost a pretty penny. But fortunately for City, they'll have pretty deep pockets. Not only because they are well backed by their owners financially, but they have actually been very sustainable in terms of net spend over the last few seasons. For example, look at Alvarez's sale for 82 million. That money hasn't really been spent yet, so City could use that and invest it all into a new attacker like Marmoush. But what do you think? Is Marmoush really the answer to all of City's problems? Can they sign him this January and maybe push for the Champions League? Or are City better off investing in other areas, such as in defence or for cover for Rodri? Or are they just better off writing off this season and making sure that they recruit well and recruit smartly in the summer? Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and like this video and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. Also, give us a follow on Instagram for some more short form content and behind the scenes stuff. I'll see you next week.